All right. Thanks everyone for joining. This is Columbus Sitecore User Group's August session. We try to do it every month, at least one session. And our speaker today is Amit Kumar. Um, Amit lives in UK, and he is one of the very active members in the Sitecore community with long experience working on Sitecore. He is 5-time Sitecore MVP. Amit is going to talk about today getting started with Experience Edge, and I guess a lot about how to use GraphQL from Experience Edge. So that's our topic today. Over to you, Amit.
Yeah, thanks, Himadri, and thanks, Maulik, for giving me the opportunity. Thanks, everyone, for joining this session. So, in today's session, I will be covering about what is Experience Edge and how we can use the Experience Edge in our projects. So, the agenda of today's session is the introduction. What is Sitecore Experience Edge? Benefits of Sitecore Experience Edge? Types of Experience Edge APIs? Data caching at Sitecore Experience Edge, and how to test the GraphQL. So I will be showing some sort of a demo how to utilize a different type of GraphQL queries and how you can run it and validate before using into your application. So you can feel free to stop me if you have any query, or you can ping in the chat and I can take all the question at the end. So you can stop me at any time during the session. So uh, this is small introduction about myself. Myself, Amit, and I'm having around 18 plus years of IT experience. So I mostly worked on the Microsoft tech stacks, and you can reach out to me via any channel like a Twitter, LinkedIn, or a GitHub also. And coming to the session, so as I said that in this session, I will be explaining more about a Sitecore Experience Edge, right? And how it is beneficial, and what are the projects or a product offering from the Sitecore is using this product to deliver the content apart from a web DB, and how we can utilize these GraphQL endpoints or queries into your applications. So I will be walking through you during this session. So, so the first section is that what is Sitecore Experience Edge? So as you are aware that Sitecore have acquired a and build up a many of the from composable project. So in the monolithic implementation, we generally used to have a one single project which will be doing all the things. Now into this digital experience or a web tech space, many of the product offering team are coming up with their different modules or a product which can be integrated via API endpoint. So in the same manner, Sitecore have come up with the many of the composable product offering which can be utilized by your application if you are starting or you are planning to migrate into a Sitecore. So these are the solutions or a requirement generally your project is having, and what are the products which can fulfill. So some are that if you are using the commerce, merchandising and storefront, then you can utilize Sitecore Order Cloud. And if you are looking for a search only into your application, so you can utilize the Sitecore search itself. That is another product which is a cloud-based or a SaaS offering. And for the marketing automation and the personalization, you can utilize Sitecore Send and Sitecore Personalize. So same way, if you will see the high level, this diagram which is explaining about a composable. So if you are seeing it, you are seeing that XM Cloud, Personalize and the Edge is there. And also DAM, marketing automation and CDNs are there. So all are the different offering from a different vendors, and you can utilize those offering to build your application. So while you are moving or going towards your digital transformation, so you have to check that what you are having and how you are going to utilize. And in the projected application or a new application, how you can reduce the dependency on your organization, or you can reduce the cost of maintenance. So with the help of this composable product offering from a Sitecore, we can reduce the cost. So coming to the Sitecore Experience Edge, right? It's a globally scalable API endpoints via the CDNs. And generally in the, if you are using the, if you have worked on the Sitecore XP, or you have worked on the headless application. So in the Sitecore XP, you are having the master database and the web database. In the master database, generally, we will do the content authoring, and we will do the content proofing. And once it is proof, then we will publish those to the web database. And web database is utilized by your content delivery node or a server or a endpoint, and that is utilized by your front-end application to fetch the data. But with this Sitecore Experience Edge, you do not need to maintain the content delivery server or a node. So the Sitecore Experience Edge will replace your content delivery, and you will be getting a data from this endpoint. So how it will work, that it is a API endpoint. So whatever the layout snapshot is there, or data model and the media items are there, that will be published to the CDN, and from there via a GraphQL endpoints, it will be accessible to the outside world. And it's a based on the CDN, right? So the scalability will be maintained by the Sitecore, so you do not need to take care about a scalability or a reliability. Those things will be taken care by the Sitecore because it's a SaaS offering, and you can treat it as a content as a service. So if you will see this diagram, so in this, what is happened that there are the products like a Sitecore Content Hub 1, Content Hub, Sitecore XM Cloud, and Experience Manager. So these are the products which are utilizing the Sitecore Experience Edge currently. So what happened that you will do the content authoring, and you will do the content drafting, and reviewing all the things is happening in your content management, and all the data from the database is coming to your content management system. So once you have finalized, and if you will publish it, so what happened that when you need to utilize the Experience Edge, you need to install the Experience Edge connector in your system in a CMS. So with the help of that, content will be publishing to the Experience Edge web app. You can say that it is behind the Cloudflare. So that is a globally scalable. You are seeing that there are the different delivery regions are there, right? And the data is exposed via a CDN, and we are having a GraphQL server. So we are not giving a raw data from the Experience Edge. The Sitecore is giving a type safe data to you, so that you can save the bandwidth while accessing the data. So that is also a plus point. And also whatever the layout snapshot. So the meaning of a layout snapshot is that if you will be installing a Sitecore GSS SDK in your not Sitecore GSS package in your Sitecore platform or a CMS system, then you will be getting a two types of things to access the data via headless. Is that one is via a layout service and one is via GraphQL. So layout service will be giving you all the components which are present on your page, as well as the whatever the data source you have selected for those component, and all the page level data will be given to you, so that you can consume that data and build up your application. So that data will be dumped at a CDN site, that is a static data, and exposed via GraphQL API endpoint. So you will be not getting a layouts data directly via layout API. It will be a GraphQL server enabled API endpoint. And one thing also needs to be taken care here, that the Experience Edge, as you are seeing, it's a CDN, right? So it means that all data is a dynamic one. Sorry, static one. You are not having any dynamic data. Suppose if you are going to, if you are doing any changes as a CMS, and you are thinking that it will be available to you just via saving it. It's not like that. So if you are doing any changes, anything, you need to publish it and after some time it start reflecting at experience edge. And also, if you have implemented any of the personalization rule in your Sitecore page via XP, suppose if you are using the XP and you wanted to utilize experiences, you can do that. So those rules will be not available because there will be no interaction of the user there, right? Because you are just getting a data directly from the experience edge endpoint. So there will be no personalization rules will be happening there. So that also you need to think through while you are selecting the experience edge. So if you are having any dynamic data or you are having any sort of custom code base which is relying on the user action and those things, right? So things are not going to work because you will be not deploying any custom .NET MVC code base in a CD because CD is not there. Generally, if you are have written any sort of a custom code base which will be happening on your CD server and giving a dynamic data, those things are not going to work. And all logic from whatever you have written for the CD, you have to convert that into a API, custom API, or you need to implement in your head application like in Next.js, React.js. Any question till this point? No. Okay. Thanks. So now come to the benefits. So benefit is that you can create a content and you can share it with any of the data source. Like you can implement in your enterprise organization as a single source of truth you can implement, right? Which is a based on a CDN, right? And caching will be there because its data will be coming from a CDN and performance will be high because you will be getting data via a CDN and also on the basis of a user load, scaling will be happening automatically. And GraphQL content API, you will be not getting a lot of data, you will be getting a data which is required by you. So because the high scalability is there and performance is there, then it will increase the reliability and faster speed for the end user, right? Because you are running your head application in the your rendering host or any of the web server, and generally the code will be in the form of a compile, right? And most of the time it's going to take a time to fetch a data. But in this case, it's a CDN enables, then it will be very faster. And it's a Jamstack ready tech stack. So you can implement a API endpoints as a middleware to do any logic, and you are having a front end application and you do not have a tightly coupled things. You can change anything in the front end without affecting the back end. And also you can select any of the product from the site. Suppose if you are having a not a if you're looking for just only the content, plain content, then you can go with the content hub one also because there will be no presentation or nothing will be there. It's a flat data will be there. So you can utilize that also if you need to save a cost. As I said that it will decrease the architectural complexity because you will be not having a content delivery. And suppose if you have moved to XM Cloud, then in those cases, you are not going to maintain any of the infrastructure at your end. You can save the operational cost and as well as the maintenance cost. And scalability will be there, as I said that, and you can publish the content. It can be consumed by your website if you are building a progressive web app or a mobile app or a kiosk or any smartwatches. You can do that also because it's just a API endpoint. We have talked about the benefits, right? So we should also think through what are the limitations of experience edges, right? So as I said that there will be no personalization rules which will be working in this case. So if you have full-fledged website in your experience platform or AXM, right? In those cases, you need to write those logic into your middleware. Like if you are going via Next.js, then you need to write a logic and deploying to Vercel, then you can utilize a Vercel Edge middleware to write a personalization via any third party like a Sitecore is also providing a Sitecore Smart Hub CDP plus personalize. You can utilize that also to implement the personalization. So that rework will be there. And also you cannot extend the schema. You cannot add, update any field, extra fields. So for example, the standard field like a last updated date, those things are not there. So what you need to do that in those cases, either you will be exposing those fields as a new fields in your custom fields in your template, then you will be only able to get it. And also, if you are having any application, like for example, you are having a two or three types of roles in your application, like one is the user type who is having access on the site A and other is site B, or other is within a site B, like a articles folder is there. So in while you are using the traditional Sitecore CMS, so you can have a virtual user type of things you can create, and you can implement a security things, and you can restrict the access of the user on the basis of once user is logged in. But in case of a XM, right, your your data is dumped as a static, as a CDN site. So you will be not getting any data related to security there. So all the logic you need to rewrite in terms of a API, or you need to rely on third party IAM system like a Okta, or then you need to do some sort of mechanism at your site core end, and you need to stitch together to make a application. So that required a lot of rework if you are having those type of application. And also the maximum size of the media is a 50 MB. So if you are not utilizing any third party CDN or anything, and you are relying on the Experience Edge, then you need to look into the media size also. And also you will be not having any indexes also, right? Because you are not having a web database, so you cannot have a custom indexes. So in those cases, you can utilize a Sitecore Experience Edge to build up a simple search. Like for example, if you are searching a keyword, then you can put a where clause on a different fields, and you can sort by with the string fields. Those type of search pages you can implement. You cannot implement a lot of facets like generally you can implement via a other with a Solar or other third party provide like OVO or a search tags or a Sitecore search. Those things you cannot do. And web database is not there. Suppose if you are having any logic which was earlier relying on the web database by directly accessing it or anything, so those are not going to work. And also, as I said that you are not having any search API endpoint. So you are just having a single thing like a Experience Edge GraphQL endpoint to consume that. And also there are limits on the number of Experience Edge calls per second or per minute. So as I said that the Experience Edge API is exposed to you via a Cloudflare web, right? So all the throttling and this limitation is being checked by this APIM layer. So if you are having any new request, right, to the experiences to get the data, and if that data is not cached, or you haven't having a previous query with respect to the same URL or anything, then it will be treated as a new request. So you need to also take care of these limitations also while you are selecting your uh, experiences while implementing the application. So if you will see this screenshot, there is a CF cache status is there, right? So dynamic means that it's served directly from the experience edge. It was not cached. If it is a cached, then it will show you a hit in your call. So those things also you need to take care. And also if you are seeing it, there is a X rate limit remaining is there, right? So if you have hit a one direct call to the experience edge, then it's a decrease by one. So you need to take care of those things also if you are having a lot of load in your application. So in those cases, you need to have some sort of a middleware in your head application which will handle or store in a local storage or anything in the Node.js server side, like we can have a singleton object in the C sharp, right? Same way, we can have a some sort of a number which will be increased and your application is set checking, and you, to avoid a 500 error, you can show a some static data or a some data which is stored in the form of a JSON if you hit this in a minute. So those logics we need to implement. And also the media items also will be request if you are accessing, right? Those also will be coming via this tunnel of a, you can say that a count.
Hey, Amit,
Yes,
I have a quick question. If you can go back to previous screen.
yes,
So here you mention about search not available. So
yes.
you can't
Search,
customize the custom indexes,
nothing.
the index schema and experiences. So that means there is no computed index or anything available.
No.
Okay. And then you mentioned that we have to rely on third-party search providers like Covio and SearchText. But if search indexes are not available, they are also not available.
No, what happened that, see, if you have to implement the search like based on a some sort of a, what I will say that, for example, if you are having a article, blogs, news, right? Those type of content is present, right?
Okay.
And you have, and you are having the template ID and those things with you, right? With that, because you are not going to change, right? So in
Right.
those cases, you can design a page and you can pass those filter via where clause while building a GraphQL query dynamically, right? So
Right.
those are doable. But as we were implementing is a dynamic search, dynamic facet, right? If something is someone is adding a new template, then automatically it's used to come, right? While you
Okay.
are using a Covio and other things, those things are not going to work. But if you will hard code the filter, right? And you will pass those two as a parameter to your GraphQL query, those things are working because you can utilize the search schema of the GraphQL. But if you want a full-fledged search, so what you need to do that in those cases, there the webhooks are there, right, in Sitecore. So while you are publishing the content to Experience Edge, you need to write a custom logic in your CM instance to publish that data during publishing time to your third-party search provider like Covio, SearchText, or Sitecore Search, or if you are having a Solar box or a Solar node separately, like a Solar Cloud, right? You can spin up. There you need to create a custom index and you need to publish data there. So those logic and mechanism you need to do that. And then in a Covio or a search as either you will directly consume their endpoints or you can have a API proxy layer which will be connecting with those API endpoint, and you will like write a simple fuzzy logic in your API methods to interact with your backend such service provider. So
Hmm.
that type of implementation you have to do.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks.
No. And also one thing is there here is that if you are utilizing a experience edge and you have implemented a, suppose you are having a product catalog from a order cloud or any PIM system or anything, right? And you are trying to push data from a third party system to your system, right? So in those cases also this experience edge is providing you the admin API. But if you there also this limit will be applicable if you are using those API endpoint also. So you need to look into a two part. One is that you are consuming the data. Other thing is that you are pushing the data. In both cases, you are hitting the edge. Then you need to consider the limit also, right? So that also will be coming into the picture. But if you are previewing the your data within your CM, in those cases, preview API endpoints will be used. Then you are not hitting your this X rate limit.
So, Amit, is there any way to, like, scale out
No, that is a current limitation is there, so we cannot
mm,
increase that. If Sitecore is going to provide, then it's a different case. So this is applicable to most of the third-party service provider. So they want to, they don't want to make down their system. Suppose if a concurrent request is increasing, so they also needs to have a some sort of a infrastructure which will increase automatically, right? So so due to that, most of the system is having a, these type of limits, or you can say that the rate card to gauge the number of requests in a specific time period.
correct.
And
Yes.
yeah, and one thing is I need to add it here. So if you are implementing any application like XM Cloud or anything, and if you are having a data points about your system, what would be right? Like a down the time in 1 year, like generally you will be provisioning infrastructure on the basis of number of users, number of hits per second. So it's better to do the load test in initial phase so that you can fail early, right? In those cases, you will be having a data points like what is the number of a threshold, what is the number of a users my system can accommodate, right? Suppose if you are having a more than 80 or 20 different concurrent requested, right? So your system will be down, right? So in those cases, those testing needs to be done in early stages to avoid the issue if you will go live a big bang thing.
Correct.
So as I explained that Experience Edge is available with the Experience Manager, XM Cloud Content Hub and Content Hub 1. So on the basis of your need, you can select any of the product and utilize the Experience Edge. And coming to this, and also it's not like that you need to buy a Experience Cloud or XM Cloud to use the Experience Edge. Suppose if you are using the Experience Manager also or a XP also, then also you can buy a Sitecore Experience Edge subscription from the Sitecore, and you can utilize that also. And types of API is that you will be having a preview API and the delivery API. So preview API is being utilized by a your content management role to preview the data. Delivery API is that when you are having a website, right? The end user website that is going to use the delivery API to serve the data which is published to the end user. And this is a simple flow how you can utilize that. Suppose if you are implementing a local system, right? So you will be utilizing a preview endpoint to implement a front-end application. If you are going to the staging or a UAT, so it's depend upon your requirement. You need to utilize the Experience Edge, or you can use the GraphQL endpoint itself. So Sitecore 10 onwards, if you are installing a Sitecore 10 as plus the Sitecore JSS, so by default the Edge GraphQL endpoint will be enabled. So you will be not having a you can say that the traditional GraphQL endpoint. So Sitecore from Sitecore 9, you are getting a Sitecore GraphQL endpoint. Now Sitecore 10 onwards, you are getting a another GraphQL endpoint that is called a Edge GraphQL, and both are having a different schema. So in your lower environment, you can utilize that uh, Edge GraphQL endpoint from your Sitecore CMS instance itself. You should not require or need a for a you can say that a actual SaaS expense edge endpoint. So you can utilize your local also your Sitecore infrastructure itself. So for example, if you are on the dev integration endpoints, right? So in those cases, you can build up your application with the XM1 topology, which is having a CD also, and you can access the Edge GraphQL endpoint from there itself. So while moving to the QA or a UAT where you want a actual testing you are going to do, in those cases you can have a experience edge endpoints. Otherwise you can go with the uh, this XML topology, and you can directly consume the Edge GraphQL endpoint. So with that also you can save the cost. Why I am telling these things? Because if you are migrating your old project to the XM cloud or anything, and you will be getting a 30 days time period generally to move. And I don't think so it is possible to do the migration within 30 days. So in those cases, you can have a non-prod environment. That is just a suggestion. You can have a non-prod environment with your headless application with the XM1 topology, and you can build up your application there. And then you can move gradually one by one your website, or if you are ready completely, then you can move to XM Cloud. So as you are seeing here that in the delivery API, your content will be delivered from the Experience Edge, and then your website can consume that. So as I said that the data to you will be delivered via a CDN, and on CDN after that it will be a GraphQL edge endpoint. So in those cases your data will be cached. So all the content items, layout, snapshot and media items are cached. So there will be a faster delivery. And if you are going towards a Jamstack implementation, and if you wanted to utilize a Vercel or Azure Static Web Apps, right, to generate a SSG website, static site generator, you are using it, then you can deploy your website code base to the static HTML and you can serve the website. So in those cases, you can have a good Google Lighthouse ratings also and improve performance, because your content as well as your HTML also will be serving as a static. So anyway, your performance will be increased. But in those cases, you need to think through, if you are having a large amount of a pages, and if you are having a dynamic functionality, how you are going to serve. So those complications will be there if you are implementing going via SSG way. So in this section, we will be learning how to test the Sitecore Experience Edge GraphQL queries. As I said that we will be having for the preview API, we'll be having a preview ID, means integrated development environment, where we can check our GraphQL queries, and the Edge delivery ID also there, where there you can check your uh, um, delivery API endpoints data. So to test this GraphQL, let me. So I will be using the Sitecore demo edge portal, where we already having all the required content tree. So this is one website where we are having this is a Sitecore JSS based website, where we are having the session, speaker, vendors, those type of details are there. So if you will check this, like it is having a page title, name, and also there is a connectivity between a speaker and a session and a vendor also. Like one speaker is giving a session on a different topics, and also for each of the speaker, what vendors they are giving the session, those things are there, and also the sponsors details are there. So as I was showing that in the GraphQL Edge API endpoints are Sitecore API Graph Edge UI, and I will also give you the information about a, wait a minute. there is a Edge GraphQL is also there. Wait a minute. Sorry. So that URL, if you will see that, I was just trying to showcase you a URL difference. So both are having a different schema like a traditional GraphQL as well as the new GraphQL, Edge GraphQL endpoints. So those are not start with the Edge UI. So those are the normal graph one. So here you are seeing the UI, and also this UI like a API endpoint is also different for the normal. So if you want to utilize the integrated development environment, then you require the HTTP header. So this is the API key. Generally, it is present in the services API keys. So once you are using the delivery, there is a automated GUID you will be getting from your admin of the Edge Sitecore SaaS offering like a Edge GraphQL. You will be getting another API key that you have to set up in your application. So now I will be starting with the simple queries which we can use or we can learn to write a query. So here, let me add a required data. So here what I am doing it, I am so this is the item query and other is the normal search query. This item query generally, if you are, for example, let's take an example of a article, and in the article you need to implement a related articles uh, component. So in those cases, what you are trying to do that you are having a data of your article page, like it can be a based on a electronic or anything, right? So you can pass that metadata to your component via route or anything, and then you will be having a that data by passing to your component. Give me a minute here. Sorry for that. Yeah. So in those cases, you can pass those dynamic query or a metadata to your component and you can implement a related content. So here what I am trying to do that I am passing the current context of the item. So and also the language. So here just I have taken as a my home node that is a path. So it will give me that item directly. So while you are, so if you are seeing that it is giving me here, I am trying to access the ID and the name. So on the basis of your need, you can add as many as field you wanted and you can get a data. So it's a type, currently it's not a type safe because I haven't added a query based on the template fields. So what happened that when you are writing a GraphQL, so you can get a context item dynamically to your query as well as you can get a data source item also. So those you can set into your component from the site core itself. So suppose if you will go to your, this I'm talking about if you are setting a data into your component. So you are having a rendering. So project edge website. So you can take any data featured event, let's say. So it's a JSON rendering, right? So Sitecore JSON rendering is providing you a this component GraphQL query. So if it is a empty, then it will use a data source. If you have will write a query here, it will pass that data to your component, right? So in this component, you will be getting a two things. You can get a context item, means where the page is added. You will be by default, you can access via context item. And if you have assigned any data source to your component, that you can get via data source field. So with that also you can directly utilize from the Sitecore, or you are writing a Next.js code base, there you can also consume this. So here we saw that we are able to access just by passing this. So let me show you another set of things. Now, if you want to alias the fields also, like a user-friendly fields, so that also you can do it very easily. If you have written a component or your front-end team is telling you, I have written a code via this user-friendly name, but you cannot change the field name, right? So you can do those things in your GraphQL query. And also you can pass the language also dynamically to your query. So by default, once you are writing creating a multilingual application, then uh, the language field will be sc underscore language will be passed to your GraphQL. So by default, it will be taken care. But if you are passing it from your code base, so then you can collect the language and you can pass it to your GraphQL query. So now, and also sometimes what happen that there are the requirement you need to access it too many data like from one location from another location, right? And people are thinking they need to write a content custom content resolver, but you need to think of a GraphQL query, because in GraphQL you do not need to write any code. So we will be using a custom content resolver if we required a data in a different format, or if the context or a third party data, if we need to push to my component. In those cases we will be using a custom content resolver. So in this case, if I need to access the data from a current item as well as the children and the children of children's, so then you can utilize simply a GraphQL query to get all sort of data. So we can avoid a custom code itself in a CM box. So here if you are seeing that in the GraphQL, if you are getting a more than one record, then it will be a result only, and it will be a type of item results, and then you can get the fields which are present on those items like a ID, name, fields. This fields and name will be giving all the fields from the your item. So this is also a very interesting thing, that if you are building a application, so you are not knowing that what type of fields are coming to you from the GraphQL. Why? Because if you are having a same sort of a field names in a different templates and you have inherited in your page item, so it will be some numbers will be added into those. So with the help of that, these fields name value, you can get details of all the fields and you can share this data with your front-end developer and they can build the application by seeing this data. So this is also very useful thing. And also for the current item, you can get all the childs also here. And now coming to the type safe, which I was telling. So type safe is that this web page, right? So if you will mouse over, it will giving you the template. So type safe is mean that in a GraphQL, if you are knowing that you are trying to access this fields and this children can have a n number of field like a article blogs, so you can just return those fields from those templates. So suppose you have written a search query which is returning a article, blogs, newsletter, events, and both are having all are having a different fields, right? So you can just add a on web page or on article those, and whatever the fields are present in a specific uh, item, you can write it. So while the GraphQL will be returning, it will return a those field for a article item. So now it will return you all the data, but if you are writing a code in your front end, then you need to handle the validation of a null field so that your application will not give any error related to the properties. So with this, you can add a web page like a type step, like I want a data from my article. So then you can get a page title or article title. And also if you are seeing that here I have just written a, I want a data only related to these templates. So suppose if you are getting a data for a 10 different templates, but I want a data from a specific template, it will narrow down the result. So that type of filtration also you can do that. Suppose you need to return a mixed result related to related content also, right? So there also you can pass a different type of template IDs here and it will give you the data. Okay. Now come to the yes. So in
Amit,
yes,
quick time check. We
yeah,
have
yeah,
like
yeah.
12 more
12
minutes.
minutes. Yes, yes, yes. That's why. Okay. So here you are seeing that I am trying to access all the speaker. So by default in normal Sitecore implementation MVC also or the this multi-list field store as a GUID, right? And you need to write a custom logic to manipulate those data, actual data. But in GraphQL, what you can do that you can use the target item and you can get a data from a that directly. So you do not need to write any code if you wanted a data from a different multi-list field. And also there is a one more thing is called a fragmentation. So if you are having a implementation which is utilized by a many queries in your single query, so you can create a reusable function type of things and you can reuse that. So for example, here I have created a session segmentation which is taking a session list data and within that I have used the rooms also, right? So I have created a rooms fragment also. So with it will create a neat and clean query for you and you can reuse this fragmentation anywhere in your big queries. So with that also I can get a data easily. So it is just a way to design your query. So now I will quickly come to the search query. That is a important thing. Yes. So wait a minute. So this is a search query which is having a where clause and simple we are writing a database query, right? Same way it is having a schema like you can add a path. I just wanted a data from a this path and a do not return me data from a this path and don't return me a data related to this template and what is the language and you can add a n number of fields where you want to search your query. So here I am trying to access a AL keyword and this is my root path, this is fields and those things. So if I will run it, it is giving me a 19 records, but I have set a page size as a 10. So this is the important thing. Why? Because you know that what is your page size and it is giving you a total number of records, right? So with the help of that, you can do the pagination. You can come up with the page number 1, 2, or 3 by dividing this on the basis of your page size. Now, how to get a data from a this is returning a 19 record. So you are displaying a 10 record. So how to get a, another nine record is you will use this and cursor and you will pass this to a value after. This value after is I have written here, right? So it will give me another 9 record. So if you are seeing here the has next come as a false. So it means that my data set or a query is not having another item. So in those cases, I can enable, disable my front button, previous or the next button. So with the help of that, you can implement a simple search queries itself. And all these queries I am having in this blog. So I will put in a chat so that uh, I will share it. So with this, I have covered the things which related to a GraphQL queries as well as the Experience Edge. And we can start utilizing these things to implement the application, right? So those limitations and the things we can check that with the help of this. Yeah. Any question for me?
Hey Amit, Jay here.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks a lot for walking this across. I
Mhm.
would really like to know that how you plan to organize these queries when you are creating your, say, a solution file or something for this one, right?
Hmm.
So this one is like you are executing one at a time by passing the data, but when
Hmm.
you're working, how do you commit this code? Where would you write those queries? How would you organize your code base
Yes.
for this purpose?
So I shown you a one way with the help of a this one thing is that if you are directly just having a query, right, for your component, so you will be directly pushing that into your content item here. So once you will get those data in a form of a CLI, so this query will be also present there, right, in your actual data. So that will be checked in your code base, right? So another way is that if you are writing those codes into your front-end application. So in those cases, what people are organizing a front-end developer for each component, they are having they will be dividing a component into a main component, and then they are having a GraphQL query separate file for a GraphQL, and they are utilizing that as a source to while making a call to the GraphQL endpoint. So in those cases, you will be writing those queries in the .gql file into your front-end application. So with that way, you will be maintaining there in a front-end application. Like these two ways I have used that.
So when you add it over here, it would be that when you because this is a component, right?
Yeah, this
So
is a
yeah,
component.
yeah. So you will be creating multiple components for a very specific, say, this is newsletter listing or something you are writing, right?
Mm, 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 mm.
And wherever you use this component, it will run this GraphQL
Yes,
query and return you that. So you will
yes.
have to create for every query, you might have to create separate component, right?
It depend upon your need, right? So
Yeah.
if you wanted to get a data directly from a GraphQL, then you need to write query here.
Hmm.
But but for some component which are non-Sitecore component, right? Suppose you are building some, you do not want to maintain here, you want to maintain in the your this front end code base. So in those cases, you will be getting a data source, right? Anyhow, in your component, and that you can pass to your GraphQL query, and with a prefetch, you can get data and display it. That is another way to fetch a data from GraphQL in a prefetch phase of a your get server side path. You can make a call to these things.
So for using this GraphQL, basically there is a learning curve
Yes,
uh, at Sitecore end and at the front end, both ends, right?
yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
So, Amit,
Mm.
you have done both site code and you have done the experience edge development.
Yes, I
What
worked
is
as a
your,
front-end developer also.
yeah, so what is your general feeling about this new architecture? Is it
It's
taking
a very,
more?
it's easy to use that if you have designed properly. If you have designed your
Mhm.
Sitecore content hierarchy properly, then it's easy for you. And if you are having an enterprise client where they are having an integration with the many downstream systems, right? Then your work will increase because you need to maintain a separate API layer. You will be not directly calling your legacy system or a downstream system directly in front end, right? So then the overhead will increase. And also you should have a front end architect and a team leads in your uh, t- complete project team. Otherwise, if you will give a work to the site code developer, they will use the Sitecore starter kit only to develop the application, and down the time it will become a mess because as a backend developer, we will be not knowing the best practices how to maintain the code. That should come generally from the front end developer because there are thousand way to write a single line of code in a front end as compared to the .NET or
Mhm.
maintaining a code base. Because if I will write a code, I will write a complete code in a one single .tsx file. But if it is a good front end, they will tell them to divide them into a small pieces so that you can utilize those in any n number of future components. So they will think like that, like you need to use the user fetch, you need to use the user route, which is better. They are
Mhm.
knowing that. But I know how to write, but I don't know which is the best thing to write. So with the time, the backend developer can learn it, but not the
Correct.
straightforward. They can do that.
So one other question I have that
Hmm.
Sitecore, this is content is fine, but Sitecore did have like other data structure like dictionary and things like that. Like we used to use so.
Yes. A dictionary service is present in the layout, but here somehow you need to, from my point of view,
Mhm.
you need to convert that into a some form of a data template only to get it. So I haven't seen a separate GraphQL endpoint for a dictionary data, but layout service
Okay.
is having a content and also a dictionary service is there. But here it is not like that.
Okay.
Like, so those
Okay.
changes you need to do with the help of by creating a separate template and consume that or store while making a single call. Like I was telling a prefetch, right? So prefetch meaning is that you can pre-populate the data which needs to be utilized by your n number of child component, right?
Mhm.
So you can prefetch that in a page and that you can pass to your child. So that is another mechanism to improve a performance of your page. So
Right.
with that way you can fetch a data in advance and then pass to your component. So
Correct.
that is a way to cache the dictionary in a front end. So these things will come from your front end team member only, because from my point of view it's a very difficult to think through these things, right?
Right. And especially since this is delivered by the CDN, so once you
Yes,
get that,
how
then
to reuse
against
the data,
CaaS.
that is a main thing, because what you can do that in the front end also you can create a key, and within key you can store a large number of objects, and that
Mhm.
objects you can pass to a page to page, or you can pass to route also. So those things, if person is knowing that, they can only suggest, otherwise it's difficult to implement
Correct.
those.
Okay, we are 1 minute over. Uh, like I have a hard stop, but is there any other quick question? Okay, if not, this was an excellent session, Amit. Thanks so much
Thank you.
for presenting it. Okay,
Yeah. Thanks
as
for the
always.
opportunity and joining this session. Thanks everyone.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Amit.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Have a
Bye.
nice day. Bye.
Bye.